Hey guys, Joey Resendez here. This is the tutorial video for Etude number 3. Coincidentally, it's number 3 in the book as well. Lots and lots of arpeggios in this guy. So if you don't know your F major scale and the arpeggios that go along with it, you know, I would kind of like the 1, the 4, and the 5. If you don't know what that means, get with your private teacher. 1 would be you know, the FAC. 4 would be, you know, B flat D F. 5 would be the C major triad, C E and G, because there's a lot of that happening in this etude. Also a few more as well. So really make sure you have a really good sense of time here. I'm not going to go into too big of detail in this guy because it's just a big old string of notes, and it's just going to take, you know, a bit of practice, and I think you should be able to have it soon. Alright, starting off, make sure you have your measures numbered, because I will be probably referring to a lot of measure numbers here. Alright, so start off nice and strong. Make sure you get the tonguing where it's supposed to go in these first two bars in that low C. And again, that's good. Not arpeggio, scale up here. I like to use side B flat on that descending bit there in measures 4 and 5. I like to not flip-flop as much as if possible, so between C and B flat, it's just me. Then you got it sequences up a step here in measures 6 and 7. Right here, I definitely use the side B, or sorry, the bis B flat there in measure. I think that is 9. And I like to, you could do one of two things. It says piano right there in downbeat of measure 11 on the F. I like to kind of push the crescendo all the way through to the downbeat of measure 11, and then start the piano one note over on the A, which I think is effective too. So something like that, and I would probably take a breath there after that F in measure 11 on the downbeat. Or you could elect to kind of decrescendo it into the piano, which is also effective too. So I think both work. And then starting in measure 11, we have these, you know, probably like almost 30 measures of arpeggiating various chords in F major. So you have those first two bars. You got F major, which is F, A, and C. Doesn't really deviate from those 3 notes in those 2 bars. One thing to be careful is, like, make sure you play them in the correct order, because it's really easy to play a C where an A is and vice versa. And so, like at the very beginning, you could play something like that, which is wrong what I just played, but it's really hard to hear because the tonality is the same in either way. Starting in measure 15, you have the E, G, and B flat. This is actually a diminished, it's actually, it looks a little bit diminished, but it's actually a C major 7, C, E, G, B flat. So that's a C7 chord. Then going into measure 17, 18, 19, you have the same thing as you did at the beginning, but it's changed up a little bit because the first note's a 16th note. And then something a little bit different here, measure 23. This is G minor, G, B flat, D. And it's kind of funky because you have, in the second beat of measure 23, you have that G, G, G with the octave, and all you have is the octave key, you know, moving right there. And if your mouth and embouchures is set absolutely perfect, that you won't hear that octave displacement or octave jump. So I would kind of do a little bit of that to make sure that that's happening for you. Just finger a G and just toggle your octave key. Okay. And then more of the same there. I would keep, I really like to keep this whole section, measure 11 through measure 30, kind of like a lower dynamic. And then when you get to measure 31 with the mezzo forte, that's when I think it can start picking up steam a little bit. Because it changes the articulation too. You got the slur to tongue to. And then right here, measure 33 and 34, you have this 1, 2, 3, 4 times. You have this articulation pattern. When I first learned that, it's a little awkward because you want to change notes on the strong beats rather than the weak beats when you actually do change notes. So that takes a little bit of getting used to, but with a little practice you should be fine. And then again, measure 35, you play the same thing up a little bit. And same thing there. And then you have more of the arpeggiated pattern there, back at a piano dynamic in measure 39. And then right here, measure 47, we start having this scalar passage. Where they got the slur two, and then you tongue 6, or actually it's more like I don't know however many that is, 14. I would kind of do like a stair step. Each one of those gets a little bit louder. Okay, and keep your articulation very, very, very light. You don't want a thuddy tongue. You want a very light tongue, and by that I mean tongue with kind of the very tip of the tongue on the underside of the very tip of the reed. Do 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 do. You should be thinking with a D syllable. Do 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 do. Not ta 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 ta. If you think the ta syllable, I think you'll top out at a lower speed than you would if you were using the D syllable. So this is with the T. And it just doesn't sound as good. With a D syllable, it sounds more fluid. Okay. Then you got more. Then measure 53. Be careful of the articulation right here. You got the slur, or sorry, tongue 1, slur 2, tongue 1, and that repeat it. Excuse me. I think I breathed right there, and right, measure 54. Breathing is one of the things that's going to be a little bit challenging in this etude because there's not one single rest in the whole thing. So you just kind of have to find out what works for you. I like to breathe after an eighth note, so I don't like to breathe between 2/16. Try to avoid that as much as possible. Get with your lesson teacher, find where good places to breathe are. Or you can just look to see what I did in the video and kind of copy that. I think those are fine places to breathe. Make sure you get the articulation here. I've seen other videos where this is not quite right. Measure 53, 4, 5, 6. Measure 56 going to measure 57. Then you have the scale F major all the way, baby. If you notice, each time when you drop down, that note outlines the F major arpeggio. Let's see. F. And again, right there at the end, you have the high F for 2 bars, and then 3 bars with a fermata on the last one. I would hold that note a good, 2, 4, 6, 8 bars, maybe even, or I'm sorry, 8 beats, maybe even 10. 1, 2, 1, 2. I mean, it's supposed. General rule of thumb is you add at least half of the value to the fermata. That's kind of what I like to go by. So you can make your own decisions there. I think anywhere between 1 and 3 beats will be sufficient there. All right. So those are the major points there. Speaking with dynamics, you just have to get with your lesson teacher and just kind of do a little bit of just don't. The main thing is don't keep things stagnant. You always want them to be going somewhere or coming from somewhere. If you have 2 things that are identical right next to each other, maybe play a little bit of a different dynamic. Okay, so that's really all there is to this etude. So I think a lot of people are going to play these etudes really well, very, very quickly, and there's going to be a lot of people come December ready to rock on these 3 etudes. So you better be on your A game come December. So keep practicing. If you have any questions, don't feel free to reach out to me either in the comment section, or you can email me at txsaxophone@gmail.com. All right, thank you guys. Bye bye.